Oh, so heavy. The camera's so heavy. Hello, my historical fashion friends, and today we are going to make a early 15th century open hood. I'm going to end up with two versions, one with lining and one without. The first one will be my mock-up. And if you like videos like this, be sure to subscribe and give it a like. And if you want to follow me on Instagram, I am gabrielle.westwood. So let's get started. So before we transfer the hood onto this fashion fabric, we're going to make a mock-up. I actually transferred this to inches because all of my measuring tapes are in inches. So every time I measure something, I have to say, Alexa, how many inches is 20 centimeters?
20 centimeters is about 7.9 inches.
So I've basically just measured out all of the different points, and then I am going to transfer it onto my mock-up fabric, which is just this sort of faux felted wool type fabric. So let's work on that. I'm just going to put my little pattern here in front of me while I transfer everything onto this. First, I need to know that my leer pipe is supposed to be 31 inches, so I know that on my regular fabric I only have enough for 27, so let's do that instead. And I'm just going to make little outline markings for where the different points are, and then I'm going to connect them. This is just a heat erase pen. So there's my 31, and I know at 12 is the point in which the neck of the hood will come in down here. No! Don't you do it! Do not eat strings! And then I know from here down is nearly 10 inches. It's about 9.7/8. So it also comes out at an angle. So we're going to mark out that angle. And then going about 8 inches in is the hood. Then another, I don't have enough fabric. Alright, we're gonna move all of those marks up a little bit, because this is supposed to be cut in the fold anyway. Okay, so up to there. Don't want to miss the future video on that linen head covering, which will go underneath this open hood. Be sure to subscribe, and if you like this video, leave a like or a comment down below if you have any questions. And here are just a few examples of women wearing open hoods in the 15th century. These are from medieval manuscripts, which are free to access online. line this with linen after and actually just keep it, even though it's not 100% historically accurate material. Okay, we are going to cut this on the fold and see how it goes. And here is the hood mock-up cut out and pinned along the back edge where it will be sewn. This is the only seam in the garment that is sort of a construction seam and not a hem to finish an edge. And this is the example of the open hoods shown in the Medieval Tailor's Assistant. And you can see here on the left and right that a linen head covering of some kind is being worn underneath by both of these women. Now I am just checking the fit of my mock-up, and I ended up thinking that I kind of wanted to change the angle of the part where the front of the hood meets the neck. So I'm going to make that a little more of a shallower arc on the final version. And I'm also going to create a lining for this pink one, so you can see the difference between a lined version and an unlined version at the end. So after I sew the back seam on both this and the lining, I will then sew them together around the edges and turn them inside out. My final version will be unlined. Okay, so I have cut out a lining for just the exact same thing and sewn it together along the back. Sewn it here, and then I'm just going to put them overlapping so I can sew this and flip it inside out, and then it will be, lining will be inside, and I will have now two hoods. But yeah, I'm going to show you once I put this one inside the other one. So I actually changed my mind because I don't think that the leer pipe needs a lining. So this lining piece actually cuts off the leer pipe, so it won't be as annoying to turn inside out, and I don't need to line that part. Okay, so I've sewn this all together. I'm about to flip it inside out, but I just want to make sure to clip my curves and my corners as well. So there, cut the corner already, and I'll just clip my curves. It's easier to do with two hands, so I will do that. So what I'm doing now is I am just securing the lining to the back of the hood with a couple of stitches just here underneath where the leer pipe will go. And I also closed up the hull at the bottom after turning it inside out with just some whip stitches. I used my mock-up as my pattern piece for my final version, just making the slight adjustments that I mentioned previously. Here on this final version, you can definitely see the change in the neckline, and to make the top of the hood opening a little bit longer so it will sit better on my head. And then I just folded over all of the edges first so that I could fell the seam down before I ended up stitching them together. This is a method that was occasionally used, and I find it to be easier on some certain types of seams. I'm just using a running stitch because this wool is very felted and it is not likely to fray at all. Okay, so I finished securing down this. I've just done a running stitch because this is a very felted wool and it's not going to really fray, but I like the way it looks from the outside. And now from the outside I'm actually going to do a whip stitch because I want to add some decorative stitching to this. And then I'm going to do a different stitch to secure the bottom. I'm going to do a herringbone stitch around all of these edges, which I think will be really pretty. Okay, so I've decided I'm going to actually finish the edges of this with couching. So I'll show you how I'm going to do that, but it's basically a stitch where you attach some yarn to the edge to kind of finish the seam, and it just kind of goes around it. So I'm going to use the same wool yarn to sew with as I'm using for the border. So I don't like how this looks at all, so I'm actually going to pull this all out and go back to what I was originally going to do. Okay, yes, I like this so much better. I am still couching, but the seam is folded over, so it looks a lot neater, and I'm using a red thread for the threads that go along the raw edge. This is a hand spun red wool, which I got on a D-Stash website, and then I'm still using my natural linen thread to wrap around, and I definitely like how this looks a lot better. So yeah, all you do is basically just go around and around, and the threads will lay along the edge. And then let me show you the other side. You can't really hardly even see them at all. So that's basically what it looks like. And I'll show you when I'm done. Here's this one finished, and I will show you them both modeled at the end. Okay, so here is the finished mock-up version, and trying to make it look kind of like the women in the manuscripts. Not sure if I'm being successful. There's kind of looked like it was floating, and I was reading some stuff about how some might have been supported by wire, but let's see how to make it look different ways. Right now I'm wearing my Viking cap underneath because I don't have a like correct time period coif. Anyway, this is it with it folded back a lot, then folded back like just a little. This is not really a wool, and I think my other one stays up a lot better. But let me show you a little more aesthetically my other finished hood.